Have you ever wondered why Trump's America First policies are leaving American workers jobless and the economy in chaos? Trump's tariffs are backfiring, costing 14,000 jobs at General Motors alone and pushing allies like Canada to retaliate with devastating trade wars. In this video, we'll uncover the shocking truth behind Trump's failing trade strategy and reveal what it means for America's future in a globalized world. This video rips open the explosive tensions fueling a global economic showdown as Trump's 200% tariffs ignite a firestorm of retaliation from allies and betrayal from American industries. We'll uncover how these policies, sold as a shield for U.S. workers, are instead slashing jobs, with General Motors axing 14,000 positions and Ford abandoning American factories. The tension isn't just domestic. Canada's $155 billion counter tariffs and Europe's looming trade barriers signal a world turning against the U.S., with allies like Japan and Canada warning of global instability. We'll dive into the human cost, where families face soaring prices and shattered dreams, and expose why Trump's trade war is isolating America, pushing it toward economic collapse. Brace for a deep dive into a battle where nations are at odds, industries are rebelling, and the U.S. stands at a crossroads: adapt or fall. When Donald Trump returned to the White House in January 2025, he doubled down on his signature America First playbook, unleashing 200% tariffs on imports to force companies like General Motors, GM, to prioritize U.S. manufacturing. His vision was clear: make foreign production so costly that jobs would flood back to American soil. But the reality is a brutal wake-up call. GM's announcement of 14,000 job cuts and 5 factory closures wasn't just a corporate restructuring. It was a direct rebuke of Trump's strategy. The auto industry, once a symbol of American might, is crumbling under the weight of his policies, with projections estimating 2 million fewer cars sold in the U.S. in 2025. Why did GM, a cornerstone of American industry, turn its back on the heartland? The answer lies in globalization's unstoppable momentum. Trump's tariffs, meant to shield domestic production, misread the modern economic landscape. GM didn't just cut jobs. It pivoted to a future where $35 billion in electric vehicle, EV research, and global production are the keys to survival. In 2024, 40% of GM's products were manufactured outside the U.S., generating a staggering $32 billion in international revenue. By expanding factories in China, India, and Mexico, where costs are lower and tariffs don't apply, GM outmaneuvered Trump's trade barriers. This isn't a betrayal. It's a calculated move to thrive in a world where Trump's tariffs are strangling U.S. competitiveness. The fallout is devastating. Car stocks plummeted after Trump's tariff announcement, with GM's shares dropping 9% in a single day. But within days, GM's stock rebounded, buoyed by its international revenue streams. Trump's tweets, filled with promises of a manufacturing renaissance, couldn't mask the truth. His policies are accelerating the decline of American industry. Workers in Michigan and Ohio, who believed in Trump's vision, now face unemployment, while GM secures its future abroad. This chapter of Trump's tariff saga isn't just a policy failure, it's a betrayal of the very people he swore to protect. While Trump clings to America First, GM and Ford are rewriting the rules of survival in a globalized world. Ford blindsided America by abandoning production of the Focus, CMX, and most EV lines, leaving 2,000 workers jobless without warning. This isn't just about cutting costs to boost profits. It's a desperate bid to outrun Trump's tariffs and compete in a future dominated by EVs and global supply chains. The American auto industry, once the pride of cities like Detroit, is in open rebellion against Trump's tariff regime. GM's decision to slash 14,000 jobs and close 5 factories was a shock, but Ford's move was equally ruthless. The company redirected $22 billion to global EV production, partnering with BMW on Project T3 to develop cutting-edge solid-state batteries. Ford's exodus wasn't a whim. It was a response to skyrocketing production costs driven by Trump's tariffs. Between 2020 and 2024, lithium prices surged 400%, and 80% of the world's lithium is refined in China, beyond the reach of U.S. trade barriers. Add to that soaring steel and aluminum prices, and building EVs in the U.S. now costs 25% more than abroad. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, laid it bare. We absolutely have too many people in some places, no doubt about it. This isn't corporate greed, it's survival. Trump's tariffs have created a perfect storm, forcing automakers to choose between bankruptcy and globalization. GM invested $5 billion in Mexican EV factories, while Hyundai, Toyota, and Nissan shifted over 50% of their production overseas to dodge tariffs. These companies aren't just fleeing, they're adapting to a world where Tesla sets the pace. Unlike Ford, which grapples with unions and legacy systems, Tesla mines its own lithium, builds batteries, and trains AI in-house, delivering cars directly to consumers. Ford's blunt assessment? We're not competing with a car maker anymore. We're up against a production civilization. Trump's response? More tariffs and empty rhetoric. His failure to grasp the EV revolution, a field he's barely acknowledged, has left U.S. automakers scrambling to catch up. GM and Ford aren't abandoning America out of disloyalty. They're fighting to survive in a global market where Trump's policies are a death sentence. The irony? The very companies Trump claims to champion are proving his America First vision is a relic, out of touch with the realities of a tech-driven, interconnected world. Canada, America's closest ally, is striking back with devastating precision, proving Trump's tariffs are sparking a trade war with no winners. Canada slapped 25% tariffs on $30 billion of U.S. goods, targeting non-USMCA-compliant cars, effective March 4, 2025, in a calculated blow. This isn't just about trade agreements, it's Canada sending a clear message. Trump's economic bullying won't go unanswered, and the U.S. will feel the pain. Trump's tariffs didn't just wound U.S. companies. They provoked a ferocious response from Canada, a nation that buys more from the U.S. than the UK, France, China, and Japan combined. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney responded with $155 billion in retaliatory tariffs, targeting U.S. cars, steel, and aluminum. The impact is catastrophic. 70% of Canadian tourists have vanished from U.S. destinations, costing states like Florida, Maine, and Nevada 90% of their tourism revenue. Las Vegas, once bustling with Canadian visitors, is now a ghost town, with hotels reporting unprecedented losses. Canada's retaliation isn't just economic, it's cultural and emotional. The Choose Canada campaign has fueled boycotts of U.S. goods, with Canadians canceling trips and even booing the U.S. national anthem at hockey games. Canadian media cite fears of arbitrary detention, harsh immigration policies, and health risks, including measles outbreaks in the U.S., as reasons for the exodus. Carney's strategy is surgical. By targeting non-compliant U.S. cars while sparing Mexico's USMCA-compliant exports, Canada exposes the flaws in Trump's scattershot tariffs. The message is unmistakable. Canada won't be bullied, and it's willing to hit the U.S. where it hurts. The economic fallout is deepening the rift between neighbors. U.S. supply chains, reliant on Canadian wheat, aluminum, and electronics, are buckling. Canada's unified economic strategy, including plans to build 400,000 homes annually, positions it as a formidable player, not a pushover. Trump's claim that we don't need Canada is backfiring spectacularly as U.S. industries choke on rising raw material costs. This isn't just a trade spat, it's a rupture in neighborly relations, with Canada proving it can fight back and win. Europe is bracing for battle, warning that Trump's tariffs could plunge the world into a devastating recession. Europe is mulling 25% tariffs on U.S. steel, cars, and parts, with a potential 20% tariff on all U.S. imports, signaling a unified front against Trump. Trump insists his policies will save the U.S. economy, but economists predict millions of job losses and a global economic meltdown. Europe, a linchpin of U.S. trade, is preparing to strike back with surgical precision. Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission, issued a chilling warning. We don't want to retaliate, but we have a strong plan. Europe's potential $28 billion tariffs on U.S. steel and cars could cripple American exports, from Detroit's auto plants to Ohio's steel mills. The Wall Street stock market is in chaos, with the S&P 500 plummeting 20% from its February 2025 peak and daily swings of 1,000 points. Economist Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics didn't sugarcoat it. If Trump implements this, millions of jobs will vanish, and the U.S. could face a recession unlike anything in decades. The global stakes are astronomical. Japan and Canada have sounded alarms about economic instability, while China is seizing the EV market, pouring billions into battery technology. Trump's tariffs, designed to protect U.S. industries, are instead isolating America from global trade. Allies are forging new partnerships, sidelining the U.S. in a world that's moving toward innovation and collaboration. Europe's response isn't reckless, it's strategic, aimed at protecting its economies while exposing Trump's trade war playbook as dangerously outdated. The risk of a full-blown global trade war is no longer hypothetical. It's imminent, and the U.S. stands to lose the most. Trump vowed to protect American workers, but his tariffs are plunging them into unemployment and despair. Thousands of GM and Ford workers woke up jobless, their livelihoods erased overnight by factory closures with no warning. Trump boasts of a stronger economy, but inflation is crushing families, and the American dream is slipping out of reach. The human toll of Trump's tariffs is a tragedy unfolding in real time. In Michigan, the heart of American industry, thousands of GM and Ford workers lost their jobs in a matter of days. These weren't just paychecks. They were the foundation of communities, now shattered by policies that promised prosperity, but delivered pain. Inflation is spiraling out of control, with egg prices set to jump to $4 per carton, and everyday goods like bread and soda becoming luxuries. Credit card interest rates exceeding 20% have families trapped in a cycle of debt, rotating cards just to survive the week. The stock market's collapse has obliterated savings, and consumers are bearing the brunt of Trump's tariffs, which CNN aptly calls taxes on the American people. The cost of living is skyrocketing, and purchasing power is evaporating. Trump's claim of generating $1 trillion from tariffs is a hollow boast when millions of Americans are voicing discontent, grappling with an economic storm of his making. Workers who believed in Trump's promises now face uncertainty, their trust betrayed by a president who prioritizes bravado over results. The American worker is paying the ultimate price, caught in the crossfire of a trade war that's failing on every front. Trump's tariffs were meant to restore America's greatness, but they're fracturing the nation and alienating the world. The U.S. is becoming a global pariah, with allies like Canada, Europe, and Japan uniting to counter its reckless policies. Trump believes he's winning, but the global economy is shifting, and America risks being left behind in a world it no longer leads. This isn't just a trade war, it's a battle for the soul of the U.S. economy. Trump's protectionist vision, rooted in a bygone era, is colliding with a world driven by globalization, technology, and innovation. GM, Ford, and John Deere are adapting, pouring billions into EVs and global markets, while Trump clings to tariffs that suffocate progress. China is dominating the EV industry, and allies are forging trade alliances that exclude the U.S. The USMCA, meant to unify North American trade, is unraveling as Canada and Mexico protect their interests against Trump's chaos. The cost is staggering, millions of jobs at risk, billions in trade losses, and a tarnished global reputation. Trump's assertion that we don't need Canada is a self-inflicted wound, choking U.S. industries dependent on cross-border supply chains like wheat, aluminum, and electronics. The U.S. economy stands at a crossroads. Embrace a globalized, tech-driven future, or double down on isolation and decline. Canada's Mark Carney put it bluntly: the relationship with the U.S. will never be the same. Trump's tariffs are hurting America more than anyone, and the world is moving forward without it. The question is whether the U.S. can pivot before it's too late. Trump's tariff gamble was sold as a lifeline for American workers, but it's unleashed a global trade war that's leaving the U.S. isolated and hemorrhaging jobs. GM and Ford's exodus, Canada's fierce retaliation, and Europe's warnings signal a world rejecting Trump's vision. The American people are paying the price, from unemployment to soaring costs. The stakes couldn't be higher. Adapt to a global future or sink into economic irrelevance. This is America's fight for survival, and the clock is ticking. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to stay updated on how this economic showdown unfolds. The relationship between the US and Japan has been marred by trade tensions in recent years, but the imposition of high tariffs on goods from Japan, particularly on automobile parts, marks a significant turning point. The US government has imposed a 25% tariff on parts coming from Japan, specifically targeting electric vehicle, EV components. This tariff has caused a significant increase in the price of Japanese-made cars in the US market. For Japanese automakers like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, this has been a significant blow, undermining their competitive advantage in one of the world's largest and most profitable car markets. The reason behind these tariffs is part of a broader protectionist policy by the US government, aiming to promote domestic manufacturing, particularly in the burgeoning electric vehicle industry. As the US pushes to compete with China and Europe in EV production, it has imposed steep taxes on imported electric vehicles to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers like Ford, General Motors, and Tesla. This protectionist measure, while boosting US car sales, has come at a heavy price for Japanese companies. Sales of Japanese cars in the US fell by 7% in the first quarter of 2025, a troubling statistic for the automotive giants who have long been dominant players in the American market. Higher car prices, resulting from the 25% tariff, are driving consumers away from Japanese brands, directly benefiting US manufacturers who now have the ability to undercut the prices of their foreign competitors. However, this price increase does not just harm Japanese automakers, it has broader implications for consumers in the US. By raising the cost of Japanese cars, the tariff has reduced consumer purchasing power and alienated many price-sensitive buyers who previously relied on the affordability and reliability of Japanese models. For Japanese automakers, the situation is dire. They are facing not just declining sales, but also rising production costs due to the increased tariffs, which have significantly squeezed their profit margins. Despite Japan's technological superiority in the automotive industry, the tariffs have placed its companies at a disadvantage. The question now is whether Japan will continue to absorb these costs or take decisive action to protect its interests. While trade wars are often fought on the ground of tariffs and duties, Japan has decided to hit the US where it hurts the most: its financial system. Rather than simply reacting with words, Japan has unleashed a powerful economic weapon: its vast holdings of US Treasury bonds. For decades, Japan has been one of the largest holders of US debt, and this financial strategy has been instrumental in supporting the US government's ability to finance its operations and keep the dollar stable. But recent events show that Japan is no longer willing to support US financial policy without consequences. In February 2025, Japan made a bold move by selling off $30 billion worth of US Treasury bonds. This action not only sent shockwaves through the global financial markets, but also weakened the US dollar and pushed interest rates higher. This has led to significant financial pressure on the US economy. The impact of this sell-off is far-reaching, as higher interest rates could increase borrowing costs for both the US government and consumers, further exacerbating the nation's financial troubles. Japan's decision to sell these bonds is a deliberate financial strategy to retaliate against US trade policies, particularly the tariffs on Japanese cars. By reducing its support for the US debt market, Japan is sending a clear message to Washington. If you continue your protectionist stance, we will not hesitate to make moves that will hurt your economy. It's a high-risk strategy, but one that could have profound long-term effects on the US financial system. As Japan continues to sell off US bonds, it's also likely that other nations will start to follow suit, creating a ripple effect that could weaken the global dominance of the US dollar. This, in turn, could lead to more financial instability as global markets react to the shifting financial power dynamics. The impact of U.S. tariffs on Japanese goods has prompted a significant shift in Japanese business strategy. One of the most